there are some joints on this thing that are too tight, like the waist and like one of the elbows is really tight. That and the new head actually ends up restricting its own movement. I do at least like how both him and Bumblebee come with their own, go both with two weapons, so you can decide, which weapon you want to give to them. Like for me, I'm doing what the product photography did, and I'm giving him this grenade launcher weapon, whereas with Bumblebee, I'm just giving him the what looks like a harpoon weapon. Yeah, still a good figure, but definitely some weird QC issues when compared to Bumblebee. And also, like even in the product photography, the back isn't tabbed in all the way. Speaking of Bumblebee, number 3 is Bumblebee. Now, with Bumblebee itself, the mold itself is always going to rank pretty low because I'm not a particularly huge fan of this thing's transformation. It's not bad by any means. I've certainly done worse. Like there are some figures that I plan on selling and I plan on shipping them out in vehicle mode. There are 2 figures where I'm just going to ship them out in robot mode because I just can't do their transformations. And I wouldn't even put the transformation for this mold in like the bottom 5 worst. Bottom 10, maybe an argument could be made, but bottom 5, no, definitely not. At the very least, it looks nice. Certainly better in hand. I can definitely say Cliffjumper's renders are making a better case for it than Bumblebee's are, since his shirt is just completely untucked. But the alt mode's basically perfect, and it rolls really well. Plus, he doesn't have all the QC issues that Cliffjumper has. Yeah, head's also perfect and doesn't restrict its movement. So, while I'd still recommend getting Cliffjumper, if you can only get one between him and Bumblebee, definitely go for Bumblebee. Number 2 is the last of these that I was able to acquire, and that's Voyager class Megatron. So I'll just get the biggest issue with this guy out of the way first. His knees kinda suck. There is just a superfluous tab at the knee that causes it to only bend like 45 degrees. You can untab the shins, like the back of the shins, just a little bit to get a full 90 degrees of bend. And outside of that, his articulation is fantastic. But it does kind of suck that, the knees are as limited as they are because, like I just said, the rest of his articulation is pretty great. The hips have absolutely no restrictions when it comes to their movement, and this thing probably has the deepest elbows of any figure on this list. Plus, the transformation is actually quite a lot of fun, and he turns into a really neat little tank mode, which I never thought I'd have so much fun swooshing a tank around like a jet, but here we are. Plus, in robot mode, he actually feels pretty heavy. I don't know where that mass goes in tank mode. Maybe if I put the mace on, that can help. I'm holding right now. See if putting the mace on works. Okay, that did nothing. But at least in robot mode, he's very satisfying to hold. So yeah, definitely one that took me by surprise, and honestly, a really overhated figure. Unlike our number 1, which is Voyager class Optimus Prime. I did not mean for the Voyagers to completely overtake the Deluxes, that is just how it happened. But yeah, this thing just does everything I would have wanted a figure of the character to do, and really just any figure to do. It looks good in both modes, it has a really good transformation, it has good posing. I'd say this definitely has the best transformation on the list, and definitely the best alt mode. I think it's definitely the one that just looks the coolest, and that's really what I can just say about this guy in general. He's scoring the best marks in all the categories, and it's definitely the one I'd recommend you check out the most. So, putting a little bit of an addendum here, I did put that little asterisk in the title that I probably misplaced. That when it comes to these Gamer Edition videos, I'll only be focusing on the High Moon Cybertron games. So, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. Of course, with Gamer Edition, there's probably going to be stuff for Devastation and Reactivate. I'm not going to be focusing on any of those, probably because I won't even get to play Reactivate, which kind of sucks. But I'll only be focusing on the games from the aligned continuity, so the stuff in this corner. So that only encompasses War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, but even then, don't expect me to get every single figure from this line. Obviously, with between games, the designs change. Like, this is Optimus and Megatron in War for Cybertron, and here's Optimus and Megatron in Fall of Cybertron. Completely different as far as designs go. So at least on my end of things, I'll just be sticking to one version of the character, in either game. And, when eventually I have to stop collecting or they stop making these gamer edition figures, you'll definitely get my definitive list for the subline. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for my honestly surprisingly short video on 2023's War for Cybertron figures. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. I'm not going to bore you with all the generic stuff. Take care, and Godspeed.